to the Video Game Town Hall podcast, where just by listening, you are a city council member sitting in your seat in the auditorium. I am your host, Jared Russo, the mayor of Video Game Town, and I'm here with a very special guest. I've known this man since middle school. He talks to me and Grant every day, and he has a lot of opinions that are not as fiery hot as mine, but they're still important to listen to nonetheless. I'm here with the great James Rigby. James, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Thank you, Jared.
Now, we have three things to get to. The first is Pokemon. Now, I know Pokemon comes up a lot on this podcast. It comes up a lot on the writing on the website. Is it the most money-making IP in the history of media and entertainment? Yes.
It is.
Do people love Pokemon? Yes. Is Grant sick and tired of hearing about it? Yes.
He is.
But I'm watching some gameplay footage of Pokemon Legends ZA for the Switch 2. I'm assuming this is the Switch 2. I didn't know this came out. Apparently, this is from 10 hours ago. It's from the Pokemon World Championships 2025. James, very briefly, sum up your relationship to Pokemon, and then we will get into the newer games, because I have a whole song and dance, a whole spiel. So tell the good people why you're the Poké expert. You and our friend Jack are the Pokemon masters.
Yeah, okay. Well, so I don't know that I would go so far as to say that. I think I started playing Pokemon probably at the same time as a lot of people from our generation. I did play Red and Blue on the Game Boy. Amazing games. I remember the sense of wonder, thinking like, as you start to realize like how big is this actual game when you're in that like childlike mind space and you really don't have a conception of like what the limits are for a game like this. And that really captured me. I did go through the period in like middle school to high school where Pokemon was not cool, didn't want to play it anymore. And then I came back to it later and I was like, you know what? Actually, it's kind of chill. It's kind of fun. And like these new games, they don't really change a whole lot and a lot of the time. And so they sort of take you back to being a kid and you get that, you know, a little hit of that sense of wonder again. I think that maybe where my experience with Pokemon differs from like your experience and Jack's experience is I have gotten a little bit more into the sort of nitty gritty of like, okay, what are all of these different Pokemon stats? I've gotten into the whole breeding thing, trying to look for shinies, trying to do all this. Yeah. And so I don't know that anybody else in our friend group really went into that aspect of it as much, but I did find, I found some fun in that for a while too.
You've played every single mainline game?
I have, yeah.
Any spin-offs that to you are like, whoa, Snap or Pinball or...
I really like Pokemon. Yeah, the original Pokemon Snap I've played a lot actually, and it's a game that I really love how short that game is and just like how satisfying it is to just spend a couple hours beating that game. Like you can just sit down, beat it in one session. If you've got a little extra time, one session, maybe a couple sessions. But I really love that spinoff. As far as the like more recent spinoffs, I did think Legend Arceus was really good. I have more thoughts on that. We can probably get into that later. But is
that a spinoff?
I consider it a spinoff. Yes.
Huh.
I wouldn't consider it one of the mainline games because it, they had regional forms and stuff. It wasn't a whole new, it was a significant change to the gameplay, but I guess that's an interesting question. Like, does it count as a mainline game? I was under the impression that it was not.
I guess I would count it because it's like an RPG. It's like a full blown, it's not a puzzle game. It's not a Stadium or Gale of Darkness or whatever the hell that was.
That's true, but I think they've established the pattern of doing this Legends sort of series, right? Which I do think is sort of a side part of the sort of it's almost a fork of the mainline games is the way I'm thinking of it, I guess. Yeah. Spin off from that sense, but maybe not. Yeah, it gets a little bit more of a sort of mainline game treatment for a spinoff compared to something like, yeah, Pokemon Snap would definitely be a full-on spinoff. Yeah. But I guess I just don't think of them as the mainline games necessarily.
There's a whole thing on Giant Bomb where Dan Reichert, who you've gotten a cameo from, like doesn't consider certain Mario or Zelda games to be mainline, even though everyone yells at him. It's like, what do you talk? Like, of course they're mainline. He's like, nope, don't count. And he's nuts for that. So I'm sure there's a similar argument to be had here. The reason I wanted to talk about Pokemon is because this game is coming out, Pokemon Legends ZA. Z to A?
ZA? Yeah, I think that the name they probably could have done a little better, but I say ZA.
Is X and Y the one that this is? It's the same city, right? It's the France, Luminos or
Lumia City? No, that's not XY. Isn't it? I think it's Black White. Yeah.
Why didn't they just do the Z to the XY? Anyways.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think X and Y also we don't need to revisit those ones. That's a low point in the franchise for me.
So apparently, actually, I missed this. That earlier today there was like they just straight up show way more gameplay and people got hands on. There's a bunch of previews, but we're watching this gameplay. It's like we're looking at the city Battle Zone activated because apparently there's like wild Pokemon who are not Terraform, Mega Evolution.
I think they are bringing back Mega Evolution, yeah.
I like the UI. I like the menus that we were seeing. But were you as hot on Arceus with the dodge rolling and the throwing of the balls and the boss battles and all this other nonsense?
I liked Arceus. I wasn't necessarily as sold that like this needs to be the new way they do these games. I really liked, I liked them as an experiment. I think what I've seen of ZA so far, I'm not like super excited about. I think I'll end up playing it, but to me, it does look like, it looks very similar to Arceus, but it also looks like it's in not quite as an inspired a setting, in my opinion. I don't really buy the sort of like city vibe in the way they're doing these wild zones.
It's weird. It's like a real-time strategy game, or you know what it's like? It's like KOTOR, where it's like you can move, but it's also like kind of turn-based because it's very like odd watching this gameplay. Because like when Legends Arceus was just straight up like I pick a move, you pick a move. They can be two different styles, but you saw whose moves were coming up next. This is more like real-time.
Yeah, I actually haven't even like watched a lot of this footage to see sort of what's going on with the battles. I think from the like trailers that I saw earlier, I do remember them trying to emphasize that like the movement was a little bit more important than it was in Arceus. And so I think that's certainly interesting. And I think that is an area of the game that could have used some extra love. So I think I'm glad to see that they're trying that. For me, it's more the sort of like overall setting of the game and the way that the sort of like different modes of it are connected that I'm not necessarily convinced by so far.
I'm fascinated by this gameplay that I'm seeing for the first time because you're moving as they're battling. I don't know why the character needs to be moving around, but it seems like the 4 buttons on the controller were the 4 moves you had to your Pokemon. So it was like you can like run around and like, you know, Vine Whip and it would Vine Whip. Yeah. You know what this looks like? This looks like a second person game. It's not first person. It's not third person. It's second person.
Second person because we're not looking through the eyes of somebody watching you. We're sort of it is a third person game.
But like you're talking to the Pokemon. You do Growl. You do Thundershock. You do Tackle.
Yeah, but a second person game would be you're the Pokemon receiving a command from the trainer telling you to do Vine Whip.
I mean, it's like BioShock. It's like, you know, they're subliminally telling you what to do or whatever.
Well, we don't have to get into this right now, but I haven't played BioShock, so we can't.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a conversation for another time.
What is this dog? You seen this new dog?
Yeah, that's the legendary from. Well, they're using it for this game, but it's actually the unevolved form of the Zygarde, right?
I've never heard these words in my life.
Yeah, it's one of the legendaries from the games that not as many people played.
I played? Anyways.
You have, but you must have, but.
There's Lucario. He's from Smash Brothers. I'm actually writing a Smash Brothers article about who should be in the next game and who should be not in the next game. Okay. And I'm trying to figure out the best new fighting type that there's always a fighting type, right? Like Grey Ninja fighting, Incineroar fighting, Lucario fighting.
Incineroar's Fire and Dark, actually. And that was an important point because everybody was so scared when they saw the reveal that it was going to be another fire fighting type starter. But no, he was Fire and Dark. I like Incineroar.
He's like a luchador wrestler. Anyways, so these boss battles are back, by the way, for Pokemon Legends ZA. But at least this looks more similar to the gameplay from earlier that was not any boss battle. Mm-hmm. Like this is more streamlined, but it is like you're dodging and you're rolling and
I think that this part of it is sort of. I mean, I guess the footage that we're watching right here is also you're in a very sort of specific arena. I don't know exactly what the context for this is, but like
it's a boss battle.
It is a boss battle. I'm just saying, like, there's not a lot going on. This is a very flat surface. There's not really a lot to differentiate.
I think you're on a rooftop and there's like a Absol who is like gone rogue. But like, it's so fascinating to me that like, I'm trying to think of like another game that's like sort of like this. It's like in fighting games, there's like a puppet character that you can control. So it's like you're moving and the puppet's moving, and like that can kind of get hard to like process when you're in a fighting game.
I mean, I'll tell you the game. It's Power World. I mean, it's literally like that's basically what's going on.
No, I meant more specifically like Guilty Gear or like Blaze Blue. Like they're actual like puppet characters.
Fighting style?
Or like Minot from Street Fighter V, who she had like a ball. So like you were moving, but you also controlled where the ball was, and the ball would hit the opponent, and that was a puppet character. So like
Smash has characters like that.
Oh yeah. Okay. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay. This looks like a game that is not for children because it's like, how are you going to have kids doing that, you know?
I guess I don't know how complicated it was. When they did this in Arceus, it honestly, it wasn't super complicated. Like, you could kind of just spam buttons and get what you wanted done. I don't, obviously, like, we haven't played this, so I don't know how difficult this is actually going to be and, like, how much nuance there's going to be to the battle system. But I think, at least in the case of Arceus, like, I remember feeling like you could potentially try and do some clever things here and there, but a lot of it did feel like the battling still ended up being somewhat button mashy and, like, make sure you have the right type.
I have been playing a lot of Scarlet because I've been traveling and I'm bored. I have my Switch 2. I almost 100%ed Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm still only like halfway through that. But I'm enjoying it. It's really good.
And I downloaded Scarlet. Katie's been playing it and she's really been enjoying it. And then I've also been dipping into the DLCs I've never done before. You should play the DLCs. You should buy them because it's just a new area with new Pokemon and there's obviously new costumes and such. But this game runs. It runs and everything works now.
It's crazy how hard I fell off of like Pokemon in general after Scarlet and Violet came out. Cause I played Violet and I played through the game. I got to the end, but I really did like, it was a low point for me in terms of like, similar to X and Y where like, I just sort of felt like, I don't know that I'm that into this anymore. Like this really didn't do it for me. And a lot of it was performance related. So like I do need to go back and look at it with the fresh coat of paint that it gets on Switch 2. And so I'd be interested to then like, it would be logical for me to try this DLC. So I need to do that. But yeah, I definitely found that like the main game when these first came out and I was playing them, I was like, wow, I'm not really having as much fun with this anymore.
I was having fun despite the performance. Like I got what they were going for and I really, really, really wanted to love it. And the game kept pushing me away. This is as it should have been. This is how it was meant to be. And so I haven't gotten to the second DLC, but the first one is this big area that starts in this like apple vineyard and the little applin. They added a new one, like a dipped candy apple version of it. Okay. So like nice. They're playing with that kind of thing and they're adding some old ones from the older games and they're kind of repurposing some of the ones from the main Scarlet Violet. So like you'll see Lechonks and you'll see whatever. But this new Pokedex, new little area, the plot is so garbage. Like to get through the main story is so cringy and just like get this over with.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's interesting you bring up the Applin variants. I feel like they've been really leaning into the food Pokemon in the past couple of generations, and I don't know who it is over at the Pokemon Company that's like, we need more food ones, but like they've been doing a lot of these ones now, and I mean, I'm personally fine with them. I think they're fun, but I've definitely noticed a trend where it's like, these didn't used to be food, and now they're creating a ton of really questionable ethical scenarios.
It's so funny. Katie, she was so familiar with like those first 2 or 3 gens that when she started seeing the new ones in these games, car keys, garbage bags, ice cream cones, like she was so like, she was like, they're just running out of, they're just looking for objects around the office to like, and I'm like, yeah, like we all knew this like 10 years ago, Katie.
Yeah. I think Scarlet and Violet was also one where like, there were some good designs, don't get me wrong, but like, I feel like Scarlet and Violet made me look back on Sword and Shield and actually be like, you know what? We gave Sword and Shield a lot of disrespect, but actually I really enjoyed those two. That was the game that I last put like probably hundreds of hours into was Sword and Shield. And I think that looking back on that one, what I really appreciated about that generation was the Pokemon designs. I feel like that was like a high point for the design of the Pokemon, even though I think people wanted a little bit more in terms of like the first console mainline, sort of like Pokemon game on a console. I think it still did a lot of cool things that, you know, when it came to Scarlet and Violet, I remember looking at some of the designs and I was like, I mean, even the Miraidon and the, which is the one from, Scarlet? Koraidon. Yeah. I was just sort of like, it's a motorcycle. I don't know about this one.
Well, no. So yours is like, it has futuristic wheels and mine, it's prehistoric. So he literally just like walks with his fucking arms and legs. Like
Doesn't he also have like a weird like wheel neck thing?
The wheels in his like tummy and he sprouts wings to glide.
Yeah.
So we're watching footage of Indigo Disc, which is the second DLC. It's set in biomes. They're like fictional biomes, and this is where they have all the old starters and old legendaries. It's like literally zoned off, like aesthetically. Like there's like the ice sections in its own sectioned off like biodome. It looks very cool. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I'm sure this footage. Oh, it's from a year ago. Okay, so it had to have been on Switch 1 because it looked like it's running real poorly.
Both of the DLCs did come out for Switch 1.
You know what I'm curious about? Do you think Sword and Shield hold up? Like if I downloaded them and like introduced them?
I mean, I think that they run better than Scarlet and Violet, which is the crazy thing. But so the thing with Scarlet and Violet was they went full open world, just, you set off, go wherever you want. Obviously there's some restrictions, but mostly like it's just all connected. Sword and Shield is more like linear segments and then wide open field areas, and then you exit those into linear areas again. So it is still a linear structure, but it has some open areas for you to sort of explore. And so consequently, I think like that made it less demanding. So it ran a little bit better. I think that they would hold up, actually. It's been a while since I've played them, but I had a good time with those games, even though, again, I think people's expectations were a little bit higher than they, I guess, in hindsight should have been. But I bet it would hold up.
The first day I woke up in Tokyo when I went on my trip to Japan, we left the Godzilla hotel. We walked past the Don Quixote and we turned. We're like, we need food. So we just immediately saw like a little bakery, and they had hand painted Score Bunny, Grookey, and Sobble. And they were like celebrating this game's release. And I was like, I can't ever leave. I did leave, but I never wanted to leave because I was like,
yeah, I remember being I was at one of the Kirby cafes when I was in Japan, and it was the same thing. We were like, wow, they really went all in with a lot of the designs for these things, and it's a good time.
Phenomenal. Do you have any final thoughts on Pokemon, what you would like to see in a new gen, or just any sort of like ancillary things like Grimer sucks, or just any hot takes like that? I don't know.
I don't know what I'd necessarily be looking for. I think like the thing that's kind of conflicting for me is that I think a lot of the stuff they went for in Scarlet and Violet was a logical direction for the franchise to go. I just feel like they didn't really put in the amount of effort that I would have liked to seen. That there wasn't like a ton of stuff to really engage with when you're wandering around, and so ultimately the open world that they sold felt kind of empty. So I think like for a next version of that, just a little more commitment to it, I think, and sort of effort, which has been what we've kind of been asking Pokemon Company for and Game Freak for a long time, just because it's a pretty tried and true formula and they know it works. So something new would be good.
I would like these games to look like PS4 games.
That would be a great start. Yeah.
that would be cool. All right. We're going to do a hard transition now. You and I are going to spend the next 15 minutes convincing Grant Bruner, the editor-in-chief of Video Game Town, to pick up his feet and watch Andor, to finish Andor, which I contend is the best piece of Star Wars art since 1980.
I think I agree with that. I think that
case closed.
Well, Grant is watching it though, isn't he?
He keeps watching the first like 3, that like really slow moving arc that sets everything up, which I still think is great. It's a great slow burn. But then he like stops and it's like, just keep going, just keep pushing.
The show in both seasons absolutely starts slow and just like accelerates. Because I actually thought the same thing. Like the season 2, the first 3 episodes, I remember being like, I actually don't really know what we're going on here. Like what we're doing. Like this is a little bit weird. We're watching some footage now of like the 2 different, when he was like crash landed there and they had the 2 different factions of the rogues that were sort of like at each other's throats. And I was like, what is the point of this? What are we doing right now?
It's called leftists and progressives in the Democratic Party, the establishment centrists. And there was a lot of infighting and they didn't get anything accomplished and they lost.
I get the symbolism of it. I think that's fine. But I was more looking at it from like, how does this service the actual plot of Andor right now wasn't as clear. And I guess it does have some of the undertones of what's going on with sort of like, do we rebel? Do we not rebel? Is this the way to do the rebellion?
They're fracturing. They're on their knees. They're not organized. You have to be at your low point to get to the high point.
I felt like it was a bit of a heavy-handed illustration of that, whereas I think the rest of the show did it way. Again, like from there, It was amazing. I mean, fantastic. All the stuff with Gorman, right? I mean, like I love that. It was so good. So I think there's maybe just that contrast that makes me like, I wasn't as hot on the first 3 episodes. I was sort of like, I don't know about, that specific part of it. But overall, yeah, I mean, the show still absolutely delivered on an amazing second season.
You got them doing this room where Krennic comes in and shows them like old timey propaganda, like as if someone running like a slideshow from the 50s. They're like, we need to make Russia the enemy. Like, unbelievable. This show's ability to tackle hot button issues, to craft like an actually interesting sort of like mystery, weaving through characters who go through some heavy stuff, and it looks great and it sounds great. A lot of people get bogged down in like, I want to root for certain characters, or I want to like turn on the TV and I want my sitcom to show me my friends, and I want to just be in the bar. I want to be at their apartment or whatever. And it's like, this show has no interest in like appeasing people. It is like, we're telling you a real story. And if you're not into spies, and if you're not into fascism, and if you're not into like all of these things, like it leaves you by the wayside. Like this is for adults. And I bring this up because recently Ron Howard gave a great quote. He said, I called up George Lucas and I needed advice because he came in to direct the Solo movie very midway through. And he said, George, do you have any advice on what I should do or my approach, what I should be thinking or how should, and George just says, Ron, this is for 12-year-olds. Like, don't overdo it. And I always come back to that, like, that's who they were designed for. It was a Vietnam allegory, but it was very like the rebellion and the evil empire. They're literally called stormtroopers. Like it was very black and white. It was not gray. It was like you could not misinterpret those first three movies, but they were masterfully done. And so they were great for younger audiences like me when I saw them and I didn't understand. And then later when you kind of go back and you get it. And this Andor stuff is not for 12-year-olds.
No, it's absolutely not. I actually think like this is sort of I'm curious to see how much, I guess, like Disney recognizes that this is what they should be doing with this franchise, because the reality is, kids necessarily are not the audience for Star Wars anymore. Like, you have a lot of people that grew up on this that now are adults, and you can have a lot of success with a more mature sort of like a piece of content that's in the Star Wars universe. I think part of the reason Andor is so good is because it's not shoving in your face that it's Star Wars all the time. Like, Star Wars is purely just the setting of the show. It's really, in some senses, it's not even a Star Wars show. They're not waving around the lightsabers and talking about the Jedi and how the Sith are evil. Like,
Jabba doesn't show up halfway through.
Right. So, like, I think, like, what's compelling about this is that because it's not spending so much of its time reminding you that you're watching Star Wars, it can actually tell you an interesting story that arises from the existing content in the Star Wars universe, right? I mean, like, there is this interesting conflict at this period of time between the Empire and this underground rebellion that's starting to form. That's a very interesting thing to explore. And if you get out of your way and allow that to just be the setting and not your entire purpose for being, something interesting can happen.
They're not selling toys. There's no Luthen toy. I mean, I'm sure maybe there is, but like, you could tell that like Tony Gilroy and the Gilroys, who did Michael Clayton and a whole bunch of other stuff, Nightcrawler, they clearly were taking a bunch of meetings in Hollywood. They took pitches and they were like, well, we have this like espionage thing and we want to like talk about like this and that. And they were like, could you just like replace the proper nouns with Star Wars stuff and we'll give you $1 gazillion? Right. And they were just like, okay, yeah, fine. As long as you don't like tell us like what the hell to do. Yeah. So you don't get Jabba going, me saw Solo. But like, it doesn't like recontextualize everything that came before. It just makes me wish that like they had given this IP to people who don't care, because then you get the good stuff, you get the juice. Whereas if you give it to people who care too much, you go down a different path, which is the path that you also enjoy, which is like the animated stuff. Mm-hmm. That's like super fans doing art for super fans.
To a certain extent. I mean, so I think not all of it's created equal. I think like, I'm personally a very big fan of the Clone Wars series. And I think that that's another show that started off on like a much smaller budget and started to grow into something that was a lot bigger. And by the final season of it, I think the final season, season 7 of Clone Wars, is sort of close for me to Andor in terms of certain arcs, actually. Not the whole thing. I think there was one arc that wasn't as hot, but the one about like the ending of Ahsoka's story in the Clone Wars was really, really good. And sort of rivals that. But yeah, I think that, you also can have these stories that are trying to bridge existing events. Like, I think what Clone Wars does so well and what makes it, so popular in a way is it actually really sells you on the link between episode 2 and episode 3 in a way that the prequel movies did not. I mean, episode 2, we were talking about this with Grant recently, just a bad movie, right? I mean, there's not really a lot to say about that one. That wasn't very good. No. The third movie is actually okay. It's just that it has to do so much legwork to recover from the stumble that was episode 2. So for me, when I watch the Clone Wars, you see that. And if you watch episode 3 after watching the Clone Wars, you're like, okay, I'm actually bought into a little bit more of this. And it sort of gives it a significant bump in your perceived quality of it. But I thought that show did a really good job of, again, sort of taking this shorter narrative format to explore side stories, even though they were still more targeted at kids and more focused on like, hey, it's Star Wars. It's this part of Star Wars that you didn't know much about. I think that can still work too, is if you have the right people behind it.
I'll never forget. Alan Moore did V for Vendetta, From Hell, The Killing Joke, Watchmen. He said that like for the first few decades of the comic industry, it was people who were inventing the medium, defining the rules of the medium. They were inventing the stories. They were inventing the characters. They were inventing the constructs that they could either follow or break. But then at a certain point in history, people who were raised on those comic books started to want to make their own comic books. And he was like, and that's where the decline started, because they just like they were too big of fans, or they kept regurgitating, or they were trying to like one up thing, like there was no more momentum push and breaking ground. It was just a lot of, in his mind, a lot of like reheated nachos, a lot of slop, because it was just people who were like too like, oh, that's what I want to do when I want to grow up. And it seems like when George Lucas like came up with this thing, he very wisely was like, I don't like directing. I hate directing. I'm not good at it. I'm going to hand this off to Irving Kershner and then Richard Marquand, and they're going to direct. I'll help be there for the story, but I'll let real Hollywood people do these things. I'll let Kasner and all these other people like sort of like figure out how to make these going forward. And then they stopped. And then a bunch of people who count beans for a living said, hey, George, money? And then no one told him, hey, no, maybe no. And then everything else has been super hit and miss. And I like the games. There's some expanded universe stuff that's great. None of it's canon now.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that the story the prequel set out to tell is a compelling story. And so, like, for me personally, the prequels are better than the sequels. I think that episodes 7 through 9, I don't think are as good as episodes 1 through 3.
That's insane.
I don't think either of them is good. But I think that what I like about the prequels is that they at least have a story that they want to tell you. Whereas the sequels, I don't know what is happening.
There was no plan.
There was no plan. And that's insane to me. But setting that aside, I agree with you about this, a lot of this now sort of being, we're sort of just, we need to create something. We don't really care about the quality of it, so to speak. We know it's going to make money. And also like the whole, I think that it is an interesting perspective to say, like, people who are making these things now grew up on this, and it's not as much of a, you don't have as many new interesting ideas come through. I think that very much is true. And I think that for me, though, what's interesting, like, and another reason that I say I think that the prequels do have at least an interesting story to tell is a lot of the, again, non-canon stories that are sort of in the books about this period, I think are actually arguably more interesting than the stories they're even telling.
Oh, yeah.
Despite being the opposite side of it. Like the story of, effectively, like the story about, like, it's Darth Tenebrous, then Darth Plagueis, then Darth Sidious, which is like the culmination of thousands of years of Sith history building up to this moment. And like the movies, you don't really see anything about this, and it's too big for a movie. So I'm not saying they should have told that story, but what's going on the flip side of this story is so interesting, but would have made for a very different movie because they're not the heroes. So you don't necessarily want to see Sidious come in here and win, but like what he's doing and what his master's doing at that time is arguably way more interesting than what's happening on the Jedi side of the equation that we get to see.
Luke had a kid in the books?
I actually haven't read any of most of the stuff that I've read is from earlier times. I haven't read a lot of stuff later. I do recall reading something about him having a kid at some point, but it's not a story that I read.
They introduced Darth Plagueis. They literally showed him at the end of the TV series The Acolyte.
Yeah.
Here he is right here. You're looking at him.
Yep.
And you'll never get that back ever again. Because Disney is not interested in planning.
No.
They're interested in going and then course correcting and then what if we brought JJ back?
Yeah. The Acolyte, I think, had some good ideas too. Like, it does feel like they're just sort of like trying stuff and discarding it, but not putting enough effort into any one of these things to make it succeed. I think that had they done like a season 2 of The Acolyte, I actually think they could have done, I mean, again, could have, I'm not saying it would have happened. They had set up some interesting stuff. I would have liked to see more about some of those characters, but we never will.
The guy had the armor that like deflected lightsabers or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I actually can't remember the guy's name. Who was the one who like, he's revealed later to be the main antagonist. I guess we shouldn't really be spoiling it anyway, but not much to spoil given that it's not going anywhere. But yeah, a lot of those characters, like he was essentially one of Darth Plagueis' apprentices at that time anyway. I thought, okay, this could be a pretty interesting character. I'm curious to see what they do with him. And then it was canceled. So
the games are real good. When the games are good, they're real good. And that's where I get the Star Wars mojo back in my life. I will say, if you have not seen the Mr. Plinkett Red Letter Media review of the prequels,
I have seen them.
I can't get them out of my mind. Like the bad choreography and like the stilted dialogue and even like the opening of Phantom Menace. Why didn't you just shoot them? Why did you have to slowly poison them?
I mean, I think it is. I find those very entertaining. I really do enjoy those reviews, but I do think that like it's ultimately these are movies, and there's lots of silly stuff in them. That's if you look too closely at any of these things, a lot of times you're going to be like, "Hold on, this doesn't actually make sense." But that's because it's a movie. It's for you to watch.
It's magical realism. No, I understand. Which have you seen this one, the Last Jedi, when they ripped this to shreds?
No, this one I have not seen.
Oh my god, James. They've done for people who listening who don't understand. So Red Letter Media is a huge YouTube channel in which they make short films and they talk about movies and they have commentaries and podcasts, and they're very funny. These filmmakers, these guys. But their claim to fame was creating a character named Mr. Plinkett, who is a serial killer, keeps people in his basement, and he loves pizza rolls, and he has very strong opinions on movies. So while he's talking through his review, you're seeing glimpses of his disgusting house that like is full of like merch from like a certain era and like women crying for help to like, please, mister, let me go. Shut up. And he just keeps reviewing Star Wars. And it's like really, really good critical analysis, but also being like really funny with like a meta narrative. So
I've seen the prequel ones. I haven't seen the ones for the sequels, but I would imagine that he would have plenty to say.
They're great. And then I guess for Rise of Skywalker, they did like a normal one. Suffice it to say, those movies also don't work in various ways. I like Rogue One. Andor's way better.
Rogue One, yeah, I think Rogue One was good, and I remember seeing the pitch for Andor and being like, "This guy, really?"
Yeah, I was like, "Why would you name it that? Like, what are you, stupid?"
Well, and also just like casting it. I mean, he was a throwaway character that they did to just tell a prequel. Well, I guess it's a mid between. You can't call it a prequel, can you? That's kind of weird. But anyway,
it's a pre-sequel, like Borderlands.
Pre-sequel, that's the one. But either way, yeah, I remember seeing that and being like, "This is not going to work. This character's not interesting." But boy, was I wrong.
All right. Speaking of Borderlands, I have such a huge bone to pick with you, you motherfucker. We have done for many years now the Fantasy Critics game. Like it's a fantasy sports league for video game reviews, and they use Open Critic. And you start at the beginning of the year in January, and you draft games that you think are coming out that will review well, and they're on your team, and you can counterpick other people, and you can add and drop. And you spend the whole year watching the E3s and the Gamescoms and the Game Awards and the reveals, and you're thinking about this year and next year and how things are going to go. What kind of genres review well, and how did the last one go? And my whole life has been dedicated to reading gaming magazines, to reading gaming websites, to playing fantasy sports, to dominating fantasy sports, to writing about fantasy sports, to working at a fantasy sports website. The intersection of those two things, they're the only things I love in this world, combined, I have not been able to top pure luck. And I'm sitting here with a man who is pure luck incarnate, because every year he either wins or loses by like a decimal point.
You might start to think maybe it's not even just pure luck.
I refuse to believe such a thing.
I think you'd be surprised if you knew how much research I put into some of the things that I do in this game. I think it's actually quite a fun, way to sort of keep yourself up to date on what's going on with these games. I've enjoyed playing this a lot. I know for you it's caused a lot of ire, but I've actually gotten more into it than I thought I would, and well, the results speak for themselves.
There is like 95% of any time I'm angry is pure performance art. It is purely to make other people laugh. It is not real. Like my parents do it, my siblings do it. It's like a sort of like heightened reality where it's like you think they're really yelling, but they're not. It's just,
no, of course not. Yeah.
Dude, there have been some days where I straight up stare at this website and I go, so no one picked up this game and we just gifted it to the one guy who's paying attention. And I get so legit flames on the side of my face. It's like they want me to lose and they want you to win, and they just want to see me freak out, and they'll sabotage themselves. They'll sabotage each other just to get this pure reaction.
You're having a good season now.
I already know how this is going to work out.
All right, tell me your scores. What do you got?
Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to read to you James's his team, which is mostly finished. But here's what's going to happen, because this is my life. There is no God. You took something called Tales of Iron 2, Whiskers of Winter, That's not a real game. That's made up.
It was a little early. I thought there weren't going to be as many options later in the season.
That's a made up game. Got him 10 points. Picked up Sid Meier's Civilization 7.
Yeah, I mean, that was a disappointment. I was expecting that to be like close to 90. That was, that was the straw that broke the camel's back for that franchise. I think like the people were finally sick of them releasing games that weren't ready.
For those who are not in the know, if you go to fantasycritics.game or fantasycritic.games, the average review, if it's 70, you get no points.
That's right.
If it's a 71, you get 1 point, and so on upwards. And then you get into negatives if you did beneath 70. So when Tales of Iron 2, not a real game that's made up, its critical average on OpenCritic is 80. That gets you 10 points. So that's the sort of scale we're using. Civilization 7 still got you 9. 2 Point Museum got you 15. Split Fiction got you 20.
That was a big one.
Mazel tov. Wanderstop got you 10. The Taoist Principle Reawakened, I don't know how that's eligible, got you 18.
We vote on the rules every year, and I feel like
always wrong.
Part of the reason, by the way, part of the reason I do well in this game is because I think I'm probably the only person that's read all the rules.
This is not true. Despelote?
That was a really cool game, actually. It's a pretty small indie game, but it's about like Ecuador soccer during the World Cup back in the 90s.
I've heard glowing things.
Yeah, it's a fascinating little piece of art, to be honest. Super interesting.
That got you nearly 15. Everyone decided to not bid for Donkey Kong Bonanza, except for you and me, and you just happen to have more money.
Well, now, when you say I happen to have more money, we actually did make a trade early in the year that I had specifically engineered to make sure I had more money than you, just in case something like that came along, and it turned out it did. But you're right, I did think Ashton was going to get it, actually.
My brother has let me down 2 years in a row, and he's going to end up like Fredo at the end of Godfather 2 soon, where I'm going to take him out on a boat ride and he's not coming back.
What was the one a couple seasons ago? Was it last year that he did something that you also felt was a direct swing?
I texted him, I was like, bid on Super Mario Wonder.
Oh, yeah.
We cannot allow other people to get this game. And he was like, oh, I forgot.
I forgot it was Wonder. That said, I didn't get that one. I can't remember who got that one, but it wasn't me.
You still have Mina the Hollower coming, and with my luck, it'll be the second coming of Christ. It'll be the next Shovel Knight. Everyone will just glaze all over it, and it'll get you another 18,000 points. Luminous Arise is going to get you another 8 billion points. And then your two counter picks, Hyper Light Breaker is already not good.
Yeah, it's not looking great. I think it's getting better from what I've heard about it. I'm just skeptical it's going to actually hit 1.0 this year, which it has to do to score.
Same with Slay the Spire 2. Slay the Spire 2 could really hurt you, but the problem is, let's say these other games get you a ton of points and Slay the Spire 2 wipes those points away. You're still sitting at 120. I have to double what I have now. And here's what I have coming. Hollow Knight Silksong, with my luck, is not real. It is fictional. It's a fugazi. It's a ruse.
This is the year. Silksong's coming. I think it's actually coming pretty soon. I think that it's time for it to stop being a meme.
I have Shinobi Art of Vengeance, which I hoped does as well as Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, which I actually haven't played yet, but I want to. Where is Ragebound?
Someone did have it.
Someone has it.
Shinobi looks really good, though. The previews have been...
Oh, it got 16 points. Its average is an 86. So, that's what I wanted.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable target.
I have Borderlands 4, which I hope people don't just bash because it's another Borderlands game. 3, I liked less, but even that's still reviewed okay.
I think Borderlands 4 is going to do much better than Borderlands 3.
I have Ghosts of Yotei, which, that'll get me from 63 to 83, but, I'm still not within the range I need. And Once Upon a Katamari, which I've seen that trailer several times. It looks brand spanking new, and I hope Katamari freaks review it, and they're they got the goods back,
It's a bold pick, but I like it. I think that it absolutely could do some good numbers. If they get because like you said, if they get the formula right again, they've been sort of some of the recent ones haven't been as highly reviewed, but they've still had that spark there. It does look like they got something a little bit. They've put a little bit more of the special stuff into this one, so I'm hoping it's good.
It's the first new one in a very long time that's not mobile or a weird art style. Not weird, but it's not like the typical assets and the typical sort of standard with Katamari is. Yeah. I had $1 and I could have gotten Battlefield 6, but I A, didn't know it was coming this year. B, the previous ones have not reviewed that well.
Yeah, it's hard to say what's going to happen with Battlefield 6. It definitely looks better than the previous ones. People are high on it.
But C, the previous ones, when they launched, did not come out working. And this is coming in like 2-3 months. Is it going to come out working? There were too many ifs, and I need points. And I have my counter picks are done. That only cost me 5 points total. That's fine. The trade we did, I wanted the Fable counter pick. I got the Fable counter pick. I knew it wasn't coming. But the other games that I have, like, they're just like, they're the 10, 11, or 12, and they're not quite the higher numbers that I was looking for. But I really need Silksong to come out, and I really need Slay the Spire 2 to come out.
So I hope to not be the bringer of bad news, but Slay the Spire 2, they are launching in early access. Like, if they're going to start in early access, so it's not going to like come out and be a 1.0 release.
You're aware that I'm looking at Hades 2, which is also in early access.
Yes.
And that has points.
It doesn't have points. It has a score.
But we allowed early access games.
You can pick them. That doesn't mean that they score in early access, though. See, this is again what I'm talking about, where I'm the only one that reads the rules.
I'm going to quit. If I can't beat you this year, I give up.
I think you have a good chance. I actually think that you
have no chance.
A lot of those games look pretty good. There's, I don't have much left to show. I only have 2 games left coming out. I think they're going to be good, but that's basically all I have points wise. So you need some of these games to get good scores, sure, but I think you got some promising stuff.
I'm behind by too much. Slay the Spire 2 just being early access and not a launch. If that's true, I'm fucked. Silksong is getting delayed. I'm fucked. I have such a small margin of error. Like, I'm on such thin ice.
It's going to be close. For sure, it's going to be close.
If I get blown out, I'm actually way okay with that.
You've said that. Yeah, I remember you saying you're okay getting blown out. You don't like it.
I'm okay getting blown out in fantasy because it's like, oh, I didn't have a chance at all. It didn't matter who I put in my lineup. I was never going to win. That makes me feel so much better. I can just go on with my day. I don't have to watch the games. I don't have to stare at the stupid website. It's the really close ones where you could have done something differently and you regret it and you're thinking about it. That will send me to my grave.
I see that. I mean, we've talked about this before, but that's very different for me. I love that. I always really like the close seasons. The first season with me and Darren that came down to like 0.4 points. Yeah, it sucked to lose that, but like that was still pretty entertaining. Whereas like some of the, like a couple of the years that I won was just like no one was really paying that much attention and it would kind of like blow out. And, like,
why can't I win those years?
Because you didn't read the rules.
This is going to send me to therapy. All right. That's it. By the way, just real quick, there are some games that are coming out that people ended up, like Dying Light the Beast, Silent Hill F. I think I had a couple of these games. Like, I'll just cycle through them, and then people will just notice I have them and go, counterpick him, and then I'll just drop the game. And I'm like, all right, fucking idiots. Like, why would you say that out loud?
You gotta be aware of the fantasy gamesmanship.
But no one ever does this for anyone else but me because I care too much.
I don't think that's true. I think a lot of people do take some of the heat for their picks, but I feel like a lot of times what people are picking is like way too obscure to even know. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is even a real game, so I'm not going to counterpick it, but like, what do they know?
I'm the clown. I'm the fucking Pagliacci. Everyone is like, oh, look at him meltdown. Ha ha ha. Let's all fuck him. Every day of my life. So that's fine. When did Power Wash Simulator 2 doesn't even have a fucking release date?
Not yet, no. But that's going to be a fun one. I don't think it's going to be like a hugely like high scoring game. I think who's that has that? Jack maybe. But it's I'm looking forward to it though. It's going to be a fun game. I'm
really looking forward. I want to play it, but yeah.
That's what I think's fun about it. I feel like when you look through the games people have picked and you sort of it just gives you something to be like, oh yeah, I should check in on that. I want to see what's going on with that. And I feel like I've been keeping up with a lot more of what's coming out. And as a result of playing it, I feel like I have come across some total gems. Stuff like Despelote, like I wouldn't have really been aware of it even, but like I was looking through some of the stuff. I think it was the Steam Next Fest maybe through some of the demos. Ended up playing it and I was like, this is a really cool game. But it's one of those things that without playing this game that we've been playing with our friends for the past few years, like I don't think I ever would have come across that. So I think that's the cool thing about this for me.
You picking up Balatro last year.
Oh man.
That was another
demo. It was another Steam Next Fest demo that I played and I was like, this has the sauce. This is going to be good.
We're done here. Go to videogame.town. Go to our social medias. Go to our Twitch and our YouTube. Soda reviews are coming. There's all sorts of fun stuff coming your way. You cannot follow James because he is a private citizen and he doesn't really have any social media.
That is true.
So don't bother him. And thank you for chatting. I'm sure we're going to get Jack involved in more Pokemon discussion when ZA comes out. I'm playing Super Mario Mon, which is a really cool ROM hack. I'm actually about to show you footage of it.
Now we need to do a ROM hack episode.
Okay.
I've heard of Mario Mon, but I haven't played it.
It's really good. It's really fun. It's just a skin of Pokemon Emerald with a lot of fan affection. Are you going to play Borderlands 4 with us?
I want to. Let's figure out whether I can actually commit to playing on a schedule that works for you guys, because it's always hard with you guys on the East Coast and me on the West Coast. But I would like to. I think Borderlands 4 is going to be a lot of fun.
What if I told you that not only is there cross-save and cross-play, but you can play at any level, and the game will be like, oh, they're level 100 and you're level 1? Who cares? You can all play together.
I do like that system. And I think they did that with 3 as well, right? But I just think that, like, it never quite feels the same.
Yeah.
It does always feel like, oh, we're the higher levels. Oh, yeah, we'll walk through the early, like, levels with you. And, like, sure, you're technically getting higher level loot, but it's not stuff you need. So I usually like it's more fun when you're sort of playing regularly and on the same part of the story and stuff like that. So I'd like to try to, though.
I always feel agito when, like, whose save it is, like, whose campaign is it?
Yes.
Like, when I go back, do I have to redo these things? Now, there is an option to replay missions and side quests, because some people like to, like, churn through them to get the loot again and again.
Yeah.
But, like, there is some sort of, like, well, I start the party and then he has to join. And then, like, if we don't do it in that perfect way, then, like, the moment you play by yourselves, you're just like, I got to start from the beginning and all my progress.
Yeah, it can be a pain sometimes. So, well, I do want to try and get through sort of a more consistent playthrough on that.
Do you know what class you want to play as?
I actually don't think that I even have learned which classes are in the game. So, no, I don't have one.
There are 4, and let me stop you if you, this is going to blow your mind. One of them is a siren.
I never would have guessed.
So Jack's playing the siren, and she has, like, animal, she can, like, summon animals. I'm playing this dude who has, like, a suit of armor that has, like, little turrets on his shoulders and, like, a little jetpack, and he can go into third person, like, cut people with his, like, laser swords for arms. So I'm playing him.
Okay.
So that leaves you 2.
All right, what do we got?
One of them, what is his shtick? Oh, I don't even think this is the video. One of them is a big Viking man who has a flaming axe and, like, a ice axe, and he is like a big brute who jumps around, and, like, he looks like Thor. I mean,
okay, that's a sell right there.
I would really like gameplay. Oh yeah, here we go. Amon. He's just like a big. He's just throwing stuff.
I do tend to like Chaos Merchant characters. So, you know, if that's kind of his vibe, then, that tends to be me.
Tank, like, he's got some projectiles and some melee, but he's just like, he's just a big fucking dude who just jumps and throws shit and goes ape. And yeah. And then who's the 4th? There was a 4th one. I'm trying to, it was like someone with, like, bubbles. It was like they summon bubbles and they can, like, put enemies in bubbles. But it looked
like one of the old siren powers, though, isn't it?
No, but it looked. I'm not doing this correct. Like, it looked different than just, like, that. You know what's funny? I watched a YouTube short, and the YouTube short might have been this. Yeah, Gravatar skills. This looks like an Apex Legends character.
It really does look like an Apex Legends character, and I say that as someone that has never played Apex Legends.
No, but it really does. So
yeah, I recognize the aesthetic immediately. So,
yeah. But I want the bubbles. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, but I thought that was one of the. Was that not one of the siren powers from Borderlands 1 or 2?
Yeah. But they're like, but it's less magic and more like technology.
Yeah. Okay. Or gravity tech.
Yeah. I think this is the least interesting. Be the Viking guy.
There you go. Viking guy it is.
All right. Yeah. Trapping minefields, and she does other stuff, but
setting traps and thinking in advance. That's not really how I play Borderlands.
I like the Gunzerk. I like the guy with the 2. You just instead of one gun, just bring him 2 guns.
There you go.
Or
keep it simple.
Claptrap. I like playing Claptrap in one of them because he just spun a roulette wheel, and it was just like any of the other ones from the other games. Like, you just didn't know what you were going to get, and it just sped it up, and they just like let him go wild.
DLC character, right? For, was it 2 or 3? 2, I think.
I want to say he was a DLC character for the pre-sequel.
Oh, you're right. I think it was the pre-sequel.
Yeah. And then I don't remember how Tiny Tina's Wonderlands worked. That was a really fun game. That game was like back to 2, and you're like, yeah, this is what I remember this game being like.
I actually didn't play Tiny Tina's, but that's what I heard, that it was sort of better than like what people had gotten from like 3, and even the pre-sequel. I feel like people weren't super high on the pre-sequel.
Yeah. Pre-sequel's whatever.
Yeah, I've heard Tiny Tina's was closer to like what we got from.
Yeah, it was fun. It was funny. It was really clever. There was a lot of new stuff. They really leaned into the. Yeah, it was great. So, all right, that's it. That's the podcast. Thank you for listening. My throat hurts. I want to stop talking. Goodbye, everybody.